The gorilla, a ground-dwelling, predominantly herbivorous ape that inhabit the forests of central sub-Saharan Africa. The genus gorilla is divided into two species, the eastern gorillas and the western gorillas, and either 4 or 5 subspecies. They are the largest. I cannot be bothered to keep reading this. You want to know about gorillas? Go on the internet. I have literally just been reading from Wikipedia. So, some of this may not even be true. Welcome back, everybody, to a brand new episode. I am, of course, your hairy and unusually long-armed host, DrumForestDrum. In February 2019, developer Gabe Casilio and publisher Devolver Digital released Ape Out, a single-player beat-em-up game for the PC and Nintendo Switch. This game has pretty much no story to it, and it's all about the gameplay and the music, so no need to worry about spoilers here, as there's nothing really to be spoiled. Now, please enjoy as I review Ape Out. As I said, it's not really a story. You are gorilla, and you escape various environments without being killed by humans and their guns. I won't lie, it is actually slightly disappointing that there's not more of a story, but the way the game has been made, I kind of understand why. This game focuses on its gameplay and its music to create a unique experience. The gameplay is that of a beat-em-up. It's played from a top-down perspective and you must fight your way to freedom. This game is highly centered around jazz music and specifically drumming. We'll delve into this a bit more in a moment, but the reason I mention it now is because the way the levels are designed are based around jazz albums, with there being 4 albums overall, each being a new environment and each level being a different track on the album. The environments vary from skyscraper offices to war zones to ships. Each level is procedurally generated and is effectively a maze you must run through. Due to it being procedurally generated, there's no way of memorizing how to get through it. As the gorilla, you must make your way through the mazes and avoid all the enemies as they try to shoot you. The enemies vary from having simple rifles all the way to a lovely little rocket launcher which will kill you in one hit. They can all be killed with a single attack, which you can do by pushing them, either into walls or even each other. You can also grab them and use them as shields, and when you do, they actually shoot their guns. So if you plan things correctly, you can use the enemies to mow down a group of other enemies. That's pretty much the whole of it, to be honest. It's okay. At times though, it can be extremely difficult, and I did find myself getting quite frustrated when I got stuck on certain levels. It's one of those games that I initially thought that rushing through as fast as possible would be the best way, but due to the enemy layout changing every single attempt, this actually worked against me, and it was a lot easier to stop and observe what was going on as I moved through. Overall, I would say the gameplay is very minimalistic. The devs have tried to go for simple but well put together gameplay, which I feel has worked for what it is, but I would have liked a bit more. Maybe just a couple more abilities, something like being able to launch myself at an enemy to close the gap quicker, or maybe something like a roar and the bang of the chest to scare away some of the smaller enemies. Something to just give this gameplay a little bit more depth. So the music is definitely what this game thrives on. The whole game is based on jazz, and more specifically jazz drumming. When playing, all the music is percussion jazz soundtrack composed by Matt Bock. This reacts to the gameplay and the things you do. The faster you move and the more enemies around, the more intense and quick the playing is. When killing an enemy, cymbals crash. It's actually quite impressive. This was done by drawing from a bank of thousands of recorded drum sounds, some by Bock and some sourced externally. I can imagine making this all work was extremely difficult due to the fact that the levels and enemies are procedurally generated. Each chapter of the game features a different style of jazz drumming as well, with the first being described by Bock as the most quintessentially jazz, whereas other chapters feature more unusual instruments for jazz music. I have to tip my hat off to them on this one though, because it's been done so well, and as a drummer, I personally appreciate the actual drumming done, and as a gamer, I appreciate how difficult putting this together must have actually been. The graphics are there, sort of. I actually wasn't a big fan of it, to be honest. It's done in a minimalistic art style. You as the gorilla are orange, the enemies are white, and the most colour coming from the environment, but still keeping things simple, both with shapes and textures. I suppose it works for the game, as the game itself is minimalistic. I just don't think I like the graphics on a personal level. Ape Out was an interesting one. I think I like the idea of it more than I actually like the game itself. It plays well. I came across no glitches or crashes whilst playing, and it seems to do what it sets out to do. I just wish there was more to it. It is too minimalistic for me from a gameplay front. I think this mainly comes down to there being like zero story. With a story, I have something more to play for and push through. Without it, once I've played one level, I've pretty much played them all. It's just the environment, difficulty, and music that changes, but the gameplay stays the same level in and level out. What they did with the music is brilliant, and I cannot congratulate them enough on this one. There was a final level after the 4th album. This consisted of breaking into a building. This was actually really difficult, and you find out that actually you're there to save your baby. So you grab him, and then you run out again. You just turn around and run back out. It was nice in the sense that you have to save your baby, but the gameplay is still the same. Nothing's different again. So it does not actually add much to it, unfortunately. The credits were cool though. Got to break animals out of their glass cages and watch them kill people whilst in a zoo. So that was slightly different. So that's all the time I've got for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Unfortunately, I'm not a fan of this one, but I will say I'm glad I gave it a go. The music done, I think, is brilliant, and I love the way it's incorporated into the game. But the lack of any story and minimalistic gameplay linked with the simple art style just made this a game that I will probably never come back to, unfortunately. I just needed more to it. But what do you think? Have you played Ape Out? If so, I would love to know if you enjoyed it, and if so, why? I love hearing the other side, so let me know down in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe and ring the bell to keep up to date on all my latest videos. You can find me on Twitter at DrumForestDrum, and I shall catch you next time. Take it easy, everybody.